everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanics.com. Today, I'm taking your questions on software updates, transmission swaps, intake flap motors, and more. This is episode 114 of the Humble Mechanic Podcast. So, as always, to get a question on a show like this, email me, Charles at HumbleMechanic.com, and be sure to put question for Charles in the subject line. That's the thing that I use to filter out emails so that I can make sure I get your questions on one of these shows. All right, before we get into the questions, let's talk about the sponsor of the day, which is CRP Automotive. CRP deals in a ton of OE maintenance and repair parts. Anything from suspension components to gaskets and even fluids. In fact, they make the factory Volkswagen and Audi DSG fluid. So check them out at crpautomotive.com. And real quick before I get to your questions, the shirt that I'm wearing is from the 2015 Dubs for a Cause car show. It's a local car show they did this year for breast cancer. So awesome job on the t-shirt. Great show, guys. I'm really looking forward to next year's show. All right, now let's get into the questions. First one comes from Ronald. It says, hey Charles, I have a 2015 TDI. I had the car in for an inspection after a bizarre incident involving an appliance dolly falling out of a truck in front of me at highway speeds. All was well with the car, thankfully. While at the dealership, I received an ECM update. I believe the update was 2309. Can you tell me specifically what this addresses? I was having some issues I was going to bring up at my 10,000 mile service, but the issue completely stopped after the ECM update. I just can't believe this update could have resolved it. The issue was if I was on a long country road and activated the cruise control, and applied the brakes fairly shortly after I canceled the cruise control, the car would require a great deal more pedal to stop. And the downshifting patterns appear to be completely different than if I hadn't used the cruise control. Thank you for entertaining my question. Love the show. Awesome question. So, the 2309 update is a ECM update for the diesels. Now, what happens when we update a car? You bring your car in, we tell you, hey, you got a software update. We do it. We plug the scan tool in, we run a complete scan of the vehicle, and then we go in and we actually enter a code. It dials up Volkswagen and downloads an update for whatever module that we're talking about. It could be the ECM, it could be the body control module, transmission module. Basically any module in the car, we can pretty much update this way. So these are all online updates. Scan tool downloads the update, we upload it into the car, do a key cycle, everything's happy. Well, here's the thing about updates. We don't know what happens on these updates. We get a very, very, very brief description of what's involved. So it may tell us change to turbo strategy in cold weather, improved software, or enhanced functionality. We really don't know specifically what happens to these vehicles under the update until we get a bunch of them that get updated. Even Volkswagen Techline doesn't really have all the answers as to what exactly this update changes or any update changes. See, the thing about online updates versus the way it used to be, we used to get a CD, put the CD in the scan tool, load it into the car, and we were good to go. But now, because these are online updates, they can actually be changed at any time. So we can get an update and it can say, improved turbo strategy in cold weather. And that is what happens on day one of the update. As time goes on, maybe they find that something's different. Maybe they find that this strategy of the turbocharger is affecting something else. We really don't know what happens on these updates, again, until we get a bunch of updates under our belt and see what actually happens. So could that have affected your seemingly completely unrelated issue? Absolutely. I've had that happen more times than you can imagine, where the software had a newer level, and even though the problem that I was having had nothing to do with the list of things that the update was supposed to fix, it would fix the problem as well. Could it have fixed your car? Absolutely. In fact, it probably did. Remember, all of these systems are interconnected, so a change here can absolutely affect a change over here. And we really won't know that until we make these updates. So Ronald, awesome question, man, and I hope you love your TDI. All right, next one comes from Peter. It says, hey, I'm 18. I just graduated high school in the spring of 2015. I'm currently working at an auto repair shop in my hometown and will continue to work here through my college years. I'm technically still a general service tech, however, I hold 2 ASEs. Awesome job, man. And I've done everything from oil changes to engine rebuilds. I also happen to have a job offer from another shop right now where I would be a hybrid flat rate / hourly technician doing more in-depth work than I'm capable of. With all that slightly unnecessary background, here's my question. When doing a service that involves wheels removed, how do you go about properly tightening the wheels after you're done? I just dropped some serious dough on a snap-on electric torque wrench because the shop I work at requires hand torquing every wheel, and my old click type wrench gave out on me a few weeks back. So, are you a torque wrench user, a torque stick user, or slam it on with an impact type? I really enjoy the show. Being a tech myself, I get a good laugh at some of your videos. Also, you've helped me be a more positive person when the going gets tough around the shop. I watched your video about how to deal with tough days, and there's definitely some wisdom that a lot of techs do not have. Keep up the awesome work. Peter, thank you for the kind words, man. It really feels good to me that I can put a video out, 10 minutes of basically me rambling, and it can help somebody out, with a tough day at work or whatever. So awesome. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. As far as your question about torquing wheels, this is one of those subjects that, everybody likes to debate. Is a torque wrench the best way? Is a torque stick good enough? Can you just slam them on with an impact gun because it's probably okay? This is my take. This is my opinion. This is the way I do it. I'm not saying using a torque wrench isn't a better way to do it. I'm not saying that you're absolutely wrong if you're just jamming them on with an impact gun, but this is how I do it. I use a torque stick. I start every wheel bolt by hand, then I go around in a cross pattern and tighten them down with my impact gun. That's the way I've been doing it since day one of my career in the automotive industry, and I've never really had a problem doing it that way. I've never stripped out a wheel bolt, I've never had a wheel come off, and I've never over-tightened a wheel. Now, do I think using a torque wrench is probably a little bit more accurate way to do it? I absolutely do. And you also remember, because I work at a dealership, 99.5% of the cars that I deal with have factory wheels with the proper wheel bolts. So if you're dealing in the aftermarket, you may get aftermarket wheels. Perhaps using an impact isn't going to do such a good job of properly torquing and evenly torquing, because remember, even torque is just as important. Remember that being a flat rate technician is all about efficiency. So if you can get the job done in a faster time, that's the route that almost every flat rate technician is going to go down. I will say that I really don't like the idea of just wrapping them on with an impact gun and rolling. That's a little bit more uneven than I'm comfortable with. Plus, you don't know how tight they're going to be. There's nothing to regulate the torque on the wheel bolts that you're tightening. And I've also seen a lot of guys strip out wheel bolts by jamming them on your socket and just running them right in. I've had to fix more than one stripped out wheel bolt in my career thanks to someone, not doing the right thing and not taking just 4 extra seconds to start the wheel bolts by hand. Not saying you have to do it that way. Again, that's just the way I do it. So officially, Peter, I am a torque stick user, and I've had pretty good success with that in my career. So good luck, man. Thanks for the kind words. I really appreciate it. And keep working hard, keep hustling, and I think you're going to be just fine. All right, next one comes from YouTube. This says, hey man, I have an issue. I have a 2005 TDI Jetta with the Tiptronic transmission, but it started to fail. I've done the service, it's still not working properly. My question is, if I do a conversion to a manual transmission, what kind of standard transmission do I need? I've heard that the VR6 or the 24 valve can do the job, but honestly, I don't have an idea what transmission I should put in the TDI. Need some serious help and advice, thanks. All right, so first of all, forget about the VR6. The bell housings are different. It's not going to bolt up to your TDI. 2005 was a split year for the Jetta. So early 05s are the Mark IV, later 05s are the Mark V. So you need to make sure that you're dealing with the right generation of vehicle. Even though the engines were basically the same, there's probably a few other differences, and you want to make this swap really as easy as possible. And what I would do is I would put the transmission in it that it would have had if it were a manual transmission from the factory. You can go to a junkyard, find the same year car, find the same generation car, because it's going to be different in 05. You have a TDI, so fuel economy is obviously important as well. That transmission is geared appropriately for a TDI, as well as that's going to be the easiest possible swap to make. You can take the transmission, the axles, the shifter, the shift cables, the clutch, the pressure plate, the flywheel, all of the stuff that you're going to need, including the pedal and the master cylinder and the cable that runs between them. You can get all the stuff that you need out of the junkyard. You have everything that you're going to have in order to make this transition, to make this conversion, and it's going to be the easiest possible way to do it. So get the transmission that was supposed to have. If you are trying to buy just the transmission, I would call the local dealership and ask them what the part number is for that year manual transmission, and then at least you know what part number you're dealing with. So awesome question, good luck, and I hope that swap goes really well for you. All right, next one comes from Norm. I just got my oil changed at a shop. They recommended that I replace the intake runner flap sensor with motor. I've never heard of this part, and I don't have a check engine light on. Is that an expensive repair, or is this based off mileage? Hey Norm, great question. So this really is a question that kind of needs some more information, but I'm gonna try and do my best for you. First of all, because you don't have a check engine light on, I wouldn't worry a whole lot about it. Regardless of the generation, regardless of the engine, regardless of the car, when the intake runner flap actually fails, you'll get a check engine light. The only car that I can think of that's not really the case is the 12-valve VR6 that has the barrel inside the intake manifold. Those would fail, and what they would do is they would rattle when you wrapped on the throttle. So that one you won't get a check engine light on, but because they said with the motor, I'm thinking this is either a CCTA, a BPY, or even a TDI. And when those have failures of those intake runners, you're gonna get a check engine light. Now, there was a warranty extension on the BPY for the intake manifold flap runner, so maybe that's what they're talking about. So I would try and get more information from them to find out exactly why they recommended that. And that's actually good advice for anybody with any problem. If a shop recommends you do a certain repair, challenge them on the why. Is this something I need? How long can I wait? What's gonna happen if I don't do it? You know, I'm sort of in an environment where everybody that I work with is really good and I trust them to do the right thing on cars, but it's not that way in a lot of places. So you as a consumer really do have to be diligent, and you really have to push these shops to make sure that what they're recommending is something that you actually need, not just something so they can sell parts or get a little gravy work. Have them show you what the problem is. That's one of the best pieces of advice that I can give everyone. And when it's not associated with a check engine light, I tend to worry a lot less about it. Now, there could have been a fault stored, but the light wasn't on, so perhaps if your check engine light had been coming and going, that might be a different story. But even then, they should be able to provide you with some kind of printout to show you that this is what's going on. So I would either get a second opinion or go back and challenge them a little bit on exactly why they recommended you replace that runner. All right, next one comes from Paul. It says, hey Charles, my girlfriend's 2010 Jetta TDI Cup Edition. By the way, I love the Jetta TDI Cup Edition. It's such a cool car, the body kit, the interior, awesome car. Not related to Paul's question necessarily, just throwing that out there, that I absolutely love that package Jetta. Just hit 70,000 miles, it's still under warranty, so I bring it to the dealer for all the services. I really love the car, so I baby it and have always had the work done that they recommend. However, lately it seems like they're trying to take advantage of it. A couple of weeks ago, I went in for an oil change and new rear coils. And while they were in there, they told me that they had a vacuum line to replace and an exhaust clamp to fix. It's a TDI, so my understanding that the only vacuum line it has is for the turbo actuator, and the exhaust clamp they replaced was at the exhaust flap, which they replaced under the warranty extension not even 5,000 miles ago. The past 3 times it's been in for work seems to have cost at least double what I was expecting, and it's really getting hard for me to say okay and move on with it since I do all my own work on my Subaru and the Mark IV Jetta TDI that I had before. I'm not totally happy with the situation, but I don't know whether it's the car or the dealer. Thanks a bunch. Okay, Paul, so we need to figure out, is it the car that's breaking and getting really expensive to maintain, or is this a dealership that maybe is taking advantage of a situation? Let's start off with thinking about the vehicle itself. Your car's at 70,000 miles, it's basically 6 years old. So to begin to need repairs is not uncommon at all. We also need to look at the cost of making a repair or doing maintenance versus what we think the cost should be on making a repair or doing maintenance. And I'm probably one of the worst people about this in the planet. I think things should cost one thing, they almost always end up costing double. So a way around that is before you bring the car in, call them up and get a quote, get an estimate to see what this should cost. Let's take the 60,000 mile service, for example. That's a bigger service on the TDI. A lot of times that's 350, call it 400 bucks. I don't know, I'm just throwing that number off the top of my head. I may think, hey, this should be a $200 service. They're doing more stuff than I thought they were gonna do, so it's a $400 service. You can know that going in, and that's even before they see your vehicle. So that would then say, okay, this is a vehicle concern, this is a normal condition of the vehicle because we just are having to pay for maintenance. We also need to look at what are the things that are going on. A vacuum line on a TDI is not very common, but I wouldn't be surprised. And if they're fixing that exhaust clamp that they just put on 5,000 miles ago, that should be under a parts warranty. They should be fixing it and then charging Volkswagen for the parts and the labor. Just like in the last question, if you're concerned about something they're recommending, have them show you, have them explain it to you, ask more questions, get more information, educate yourself about what's going on with what they're saying is wrong with your vehicle. That's one of the reasons why I started doing so many of those failed parts videos, is because parts break all the time. And a lot of times as customers, we don't understand what this does, what this means, how it fails. Is this normal, or am I like one of a million cars that had this failure? So always ask questions, always make sure that you understand what the part is, why it's failing, how it's failing, and what it's gonna take to fix it. Now, if we're concerned about the dealership either charging too much or recommending work that doesn't necessarily need to be done, this is a really easy one to overcome. Go get a second opinion. Find another dealership or find an independent shop that specializes in Volkswagen diesels and take it to them and have them look it over. It might cost you $100, right? A lot of places aren't going to do all of these inspections for free. They're not going to dive deep into your car for free, and nor should they. You want to pay them for your time. When you expect these shops to do things for you for free, you're going to get a lot less good quality work than if you pay them the time and let them spend the time and the resource to look your vehicle over and make sure that either the shop sold you something that you didn't need, or the shop was spot on and exactly what they said is what you need, and the price is also right in line with what you should be paying. So get a second opinion if you're concerned. You don't have to, in a lot of cases, do these repairs immediately. If it's a drivability concern or really a safety concern, then it's a lot different. You want to make sure that your vehicle is safe and isn't going to cause you a problem or leave you stranded. But if it's something that can wait even 500 miles, then absolutely take it somewhere else and get a second opinion. That's either going to put faith back in the dealership you have been taking it to, or completely eliminating the faith you'd had in the dealership you'd taken it to, and hopefully lead you to a new shop that does a better job and is more in line with your expectations and what you're looking for. So Paul, I hope that answers your question, and again, don't be afraid to challenge these shops and make them show you what's going on with your car. All right, we got time for one more. This one comes from Sean. We've got a lot of TDI questions today. I have a 2013 Jetta TDI manual, and the regen cycles are horrendous. During the regeneration, if I have to stop at a stoplight, the engine shakes and vibrates so bad, it shakes the whole car. Also, when at slower speeds, there's a heavy smell of burning diesel fuel. When the regen is over and the vehicle is stationary, I get a smell of raw diesel in the cabin. So my question is this a normal thing for a 13 TDI, or did I get one that looks to be strange? I'm a journeyman diesel mechanic out here in Utah, and all of the other Tier 3 emissions vehicles I've witnessed regen have not had near this experience. I'm not a VW tech. I was hoping you could shed some light. Thanks for the time and energy you put into your videos. I learned a lot. Keep up the awesome work. Sean. Sean, so yeah, that's not normal. That's not normal at all. Generally, you can get a hint of something, like something's happening when your TDI regens, but for the most part, this should be a seamless process that doesn't affect anything of the vehicle as far as drivability concerns. If you have a problem while you're stopped and the car's trying to regen, there's probably something else going on with the vehicle. And in no case should you be smelling raw diesel fuel inside the cabin of the car. On a 13, depending on your mileage, I would definitely take it in and have it checked out, because it sounds like you have something weird going on that really shouldn't be happening. I would also look back and see when the last time the software of the vehicle was updated, because actually a software update may take care of some of that. So if it hasn't been to the dealership in a really long time, there may be a newer version of a software for your ECM. You can call your local dealership or take it to your local dealership and ask them. You can call them and see if there's a software update open on your car. You'll have to take it there for them to actually check what the software level is in your vehicle. So I would go that route first, but I would definitely get it looked at, man. It does not sound like this car is acting right. We want to make sure that whatever's going on gets fixed and not causes more damage. And yours is one of the vehicles that's going to be affected with the emissions issues that Volkswagen had. So we're still kind of a ways away. I've heard rumors of later 2016 on this generation. Some of the newer ones I think are going to be happening a little earlier than that. We're still sort of in this weird limbo state. I don't bring it up much anymore because what else is there to say? We wait, we see. When I know something again, I'll make sure I tell you guys. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you have any questions or comments, please post them in the comments section below. If you want a question on a show like this, email me, charles@humblemechanic.com. Put question for Charles in the subject. Keep the awesome questions coming. I love doing these shows. I love hearing from you guys, and I love answering your questions. So if you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at humblemechanic.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the blog, and obviously here on YouTube. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. I have no beer of the day, no water of the day. It's early. I don't wear a watch either. It's early. I have no coffee, so beer coaster of the day comes from Avery Brewing in Boulder, Colorado.